Trigger warning. The following stupid things contains an excoriation of a man who sent his female coworker a dick pic. Hello, this is David with Stupid Things People Do and what we can learn from them. We've been talking about organizational responses to allegations recently. We've talked at length about retaliation, and we've discussed some good examples of public responses to misconduct allegations and some of their pitfalls. But today, I'd like to talk a little bit about finger pointing, framing your coworkers, and how doing so isn't a very good affirmative defense. Introducing our main characters, we have Annika Anderson. Not her real name, but we're going to protect our victim's identity here. And we have a certain narcissist king. And the reason for that moniker will become abundantly clear very soon. Annika and Narcissist King both worked for an EMT company appropriately named Empress. Annika was an emergency medical technician on an ambulance crew, and Narcissist King was a dispatcher. Over the course of their time working together, Narcissist King took it upon himself to try charming his coworker. Oh, he tried all the usual things: unwanted touching, unwanted hugging, unwanted flirting, and when all of that failed, he played his trump card: unsolicited pictures of his private parts. Dick pics. Annika had a boyfriend, and she had previously told the Narcissist King as much. Of course, being a narcissist, Dear Leader seems to have taken that as a challenge, saying, and I quote, "I bet I can make you leave your man," end quote. He followed up that promise with the aforementioned special picture. It worked about as well as you'd expect. Annika got upset. She didn't respond to the message, and she finished her shift. Undeterred, the Narcissist King sent her, about 20 or so additional text messages throughout her workday. This is why I'm calling Dear Leader the Narcissist King. It's that inflated sense of self-importance and entitlement combined with an unwillingness, or perhaps inability, to recognize the needs and feelings of others. Anyway, after finishing a shift, Annika reported the egregious harassment to HR, and management responded appropriately. They encouraged her to make a written complaint, which Annika did. But while she was tearfully writing that complaint, the Narcissist King found her. I can only guess that after having his glorious self-portrait ignored and having his 20 text messages go unappreciated, he figured the next best thing was in-person confrontation. Anyways, I guess if you throw out big enough signs, eventually even the most obtuse individual can read them, because Narcissist King realized Annika was upset. And when she avoided conversation with him and avoided answering his inquiries as to whether she was reporting him, the Narcissist King realized trouble was afoot. So he did what any normal person would do. He went straight to his coworkers and asked them to help him frame Annika. Dear Leader had apparently done a great job making friends because no one would help out. So what do you do when your coworkers won't lie for you? That's right, you lie for yourself. In the intervening hours between when Annika started writing her report and actually submitted her report, our Dear Leader got ahead of the problem. He manipulated 4 text messages on his iPhone to make it appear as if they'd been sent by Annika. He took a screenshot, and he printed them off, and he got himself some saucy pictures of a lady, whose face he'd cropped out of the image, and submitted them as Exhibit A for Annika has been coming on to me. The Narcissist King was fast. He got his accusations in first. That means he won. But actually, sadly, that really did mean he won, even though the photo only contained a small fraction of the face, and what it did contain looked nothing like Annika, and even though the screenshots were printed and not even on the original device, the HR committee had seen all it needed to. Here they had an honorable man a woman who they hadn't bothered looking into yet. So they fired Annika for engaging in sexual misconduct. Lawsuits ensued, and Empress lost. Now, to every layperson hearing this story, that makes sense. First past the post is a horrible way to run an investigation, and that's basically what Empress did. More specifically, they refused to properly cross-examine Annika or even let her see proof of the allegations against her. They refused to look at Annika's cell phone for corroboration, and they determined that a lewd picture that looked nothing like Annika and didn't even have her face was Annika, and they conducted no further investigation. So yeah, their version of justice basically turned into whoever gets their story in first wins. And obviously, there's major legal problems with that investigative technique. It ran afoul of something called cat's paw theory. Under cat's paw theory, if an employer is convinced by an employee, manager or otherwise, to engage in retaliation, aka an adverse employment action against a protected person or activity, that employer can still be held liable for discrimination. It does not matter whether the employer had a discriminatory motive if they were convinced by an employee and that employee had the discriminatory motive. The organization can still be held liable. So to dumb that down, If an employee manipulates their employer to engage in discrimination on the employee's behalf, the employer themselves can be liable. Now, they're not going to automatically be liable. There needs to be some kind of idiocy involved. The lawyers want me to note here, idiocy just means negligent behavior. It's not actually illegal to be an idiot. But being an idiot often does lead to things that happen to be illegal. So to cat's paw theory, it's not enough for the employer just to get it wrong. In this case, they need to have actually pursued the investigation in a way that is measurably negligent. And in the eyes of the Second Circuit Court of Appeals, Empress did that. They had 1. Credited the alleged offender's accusations and story to the exclusion of all other evidence. 2. Declined to examine contradictory evidence tendered by the victim when they knew, or at least should have known, of the narcissist king's retaliatory animus. And 3. They used the narcissist king's accusations as the sole basis for their decision to terminate. If these mistakes don't qualify as negligent investigations, then I truly do not know what would. So what does that mean for us? Well, for one, it's a story where justice was done, and that's always great to see in the world. Second, this highlights a point we've been driving home at Telios Teaches. You need qualified experts handling your investigation. That may mean you need to hire an outside investigator if you don't have the skills in-house, and you need to be really careful to avoid investigative bias. Believing one witness too readily and disbelieving the second witness altogether is a huge contributing factor to what happened and what got Empress in trouble. Some additional safety nets you can employ. Make it a habit to talk to counsel before making any major deployment decisions, such as terminating a potential victim for alleged misconduct. And wherever possible, try to make sure you're acting in good faith. If you act in ways that demonstrate you're putting your employees' best interest and well-being at heart, even if you make mistakes, that can protect you from being found negligent. Sincerity goes a long way to protect your organization and your employees from the abuses of narcissist kings. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you next time.